Imagine a strip of land jutting out into the sea, extending beyond the coastline, narrow and surrounded by water on all sides. An elevated promontory with a sheer drop, characterized by a lifetime of intense erosion. Sensing herself simultaneously on and as an island, she begins her journey. She's heading out. She's heading in. She's heading over. She's heading through. On reflection, it was perhaps unsurprising that she began at the top. From the top, she could see the furthest, and whilst the view took her breath away on a journey towards wonder and desire, it also filled her with a kind of knowing. Where she was, in fact where she is a place she knows. And the way in which she knows it is like a dawning, a familiar feeling, a sensation of weight, and the uncanny realization that somehow, somewhere, she's already been here. Before. Sometimes, usually in unexpected moments, she finds herself in this state that she knows well. A situational state that can't be manufactured or created by will. It's something that just happens in time, and always, weirdly, at the right time. Finding herself in a space that's known, a place where the desire paths have been pre-trodden, brings with it the realization that history is both temporal and spatial, both proximal and distal, that the past is bigger than the life one has lived, and that the present has called out for a moment of return. Returning is a process of moving forwards as well as remembering backwards. So, standing quite still with her head literally in the clouds and her breath taken away, she brings her attention to herself as a figure in the landscape, like a religious statue with arms wide open, embracing all of it and afraid of none of it. It's a view of biblical proportions. Aware of her head upon her shoulders and unashamedly feeling the pleasure of her warm body, she knows that this headland holds within it all of her sensory organs. It's from this place she tastes, smells, hears, sees, and feels. She's returning home, to her starting place, to her foundations. Never go so far from home that you can't return. Standing here, rooted at her core, like an ancient tree rising strong from secure roots, the breeze begins to turn into wind. It's a wild wind, and because she has a head for heights, she knows, probably because she's been here before, that she's ready and can begin her descent, safe in the knowledge that everything here is happening as it should. Heading down now near the gates, she pauses momentarily to feel the gentle magnetic pull from the left, and then proceeds to turn a hard right and head west into her future. It'll be many years before she wonders what might have happened had she taken the left turn. And even when she does this in increasing regularity, she convinces herself that the pull at the gates was more of a preparatory impulse to enable her to gain her speed and orientation in her chosen direction. Like a pole vaulter who rocks back and forth on both feet before activating the power to undertake the necessary sprint that will enable the lift over the high bar. Or perhaps it was a parasitic movement, or perhaps an unconscious choice to stay with what is familiar and known, a pattern that she's been repeating over and over for so long that it's embedded deeply within her sense of self. It's a story that has served her well, a bias masquerading as an inevitability, a resistance to embodying other choices, a privileging of habit over curiosity, a preference for the strong and stable, a predisposition for security, confusing the singular with the simple and the multiple with the mayhem, conflating difference with disorder and similarity with safety. And some of those who work in the Headlands, they say the decision is taken before the choice is made. And some of those who work as cartographers, they say, here be dragons. Perhaps it was fear that prevented her from following through on the invitation towards a different place, to explore a different landscape, the other side of the island. Perhaps she should have lingered at the gates to feel how the wild wind on the outside was not the same as the breath on the inside, and that going with the flow is as much to do with submission as it is liberation. And the story's still being written. It's still in process, and she's now exploring more parts of the island, learning to listen differently, and understanding the magnetic pull as an impulse to change direction, as well as an opportunity to swim against the tide. She's aware that her place of knowing, her headland, is contingent upon the choices she's made. She's out. She's in. She's over. She's through.